This is Trucker Hacks 5 with me, Matthew Garnett, and this week we're going to talk about securing railroad ties, and we're also going to look at one of my favorite podcasts, the Ben Shapiro Sunday Special, and this week he has on a science fiction author that tells us that everyone has a religion and everyone has a God. But before we get to all that, as usual, let's do the song of the week.
Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. They'll never stay home and they're always alone, even with someone they love. Cowboys ain't easy to love and they're harder to hold, and they'd rather give you a song than diamonds and gold. Lone Star belt buckles and old faded Levi's, and each night begins a new day. And if you don't understand him and he don't die young, he'll probably just ride away. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks.
An iconic song here from Willie Nelson, of course. A song with which I heartily disagree. Obviously, being a truck driver, I'm more than an advocate of the trades, especially something like truck driving. Is it a hard life? Yeah, it's a hard life. Can it be very, very difficult on a family, especially when a man's over the road? Yes, but also, if you're a good enough truck driver, you don't have to be over the road all the time and still make good money driving trucks. There's a way to make money in the trade. So I don't really think Willie Nelson is a very good authority on what cowboys and truckers and blue-collar workers really go through out there. As you guys know who drive trucks, like me, it's generally speaking a labor of love. It's, this was a childhood dream of mine. I was looking for work, as a second career, and I just thought, what do I want to do? And decided to go to truck driving schools, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Now, some of you guys out there may feel like you're stuck in trucking or whatever else, and you don't like it, and you wish there was something else for you. I get that part, and it is hard to be a trucker. It's difficult, but it's not as difficult as it used to be. I mean, let's face it. We've got a lot of the modern luxuries today. We've got a million different ways to communicate, be online, entertain ourselves while we're out there. So it's really not that as hard of a job as it used to be. And Willie Nelson makes it sound like it's this terrible thing and that you don't have relationships and it breaks down your relationships. And I don't think that's true at all. I don't think an honest day's work, no matter what vocation you're in, especially in blue collar stuff, does those sorts of things. It's, any sort of vocation, you could be a lawyer working. A lawyer has a lot better chance of being alone and neglecting his family than just about anybody else. The lawyers are demanded to work 80 and 90 hours a week if they want to get ahead in that world. Businessmen, same thing. So yeah, I don't buy this. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys, truck drivers. Make them be doctors and lawyers. It's a bunch of, I don't really get it in a sense. But also, I guess Willie, in a sense, is trying to advocate for the blue collar worker to say, hey, we've got a much tougher job than those lawyers and doctors, which might or might not be true. They both have their ups and downs. Life is life, and you've got to pursue your vocation with passion. And I'm not saying, I'm a big Mike Rowe fan. He's a big advocate of blue collar work and learning the trades and that sort of thing. And he says, don't go after your passion. Make what you're doing your passion. Whatever it is. And that's why I love that show he does called Dirty Jobs. And we probably ought to review some of that a little bit. But I love that show because those guys doing those dirty jobs, I mean, who wants to do those things? But those guys that are on that show, they've learned how to make that difficult job their passion. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you can learn how to make what you're doing your passion, I think that's the key, and not the other way around, to try to pursue what you're passionate about and blah, 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 blah. Love what you do, and learn that what you're doing has a purpose, because it does. It does. So anyway, little stab at Willie and the Waylon and the boys out here telling your babies not to grow up to be cowboys and truck drivers and whatnot. I say let them grow up to be those things. All right, here we go. On to the hack of the week.
To make you think he's right. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mama, don't let...
Okay, so here we are. We're emptying out this load of railroad ties down in the middle of nowhere, southeast Kentucky. I actually envy these boys. Man, they look like they have a good time doing what they do down here, providing, gardening materials, home improvement materials for the people down there. And I just want to do a couple things here. I want to note how I've secured this load of railroad ties. Now, a lot of you guys might think it's overkill. That's cool, but you can see there that I've got maybe 15 straps on this load. The way they load these railroad ties is they put one down, as you see, and then they angle that one down, and they use the next ones on top to smash down the other ones. And what I've done is I've kind of double secured those. You see those two straps there right in the middle of the screen together. That might be the part you guys might consider overkill. I don't. I looked at that load and thought it's a possibility that the front of that sitting on that railroad tie, even though it's weighted down by the strap, and the railroad ties might have a chance to kick. So I went on ahead and just put that extra strap on there. That's what, so I like to play chess. Maybe, I don't know if anybody plays chess out there, but I play chess, and there's a concept in chess called the overworked piece. And basically that's a piece that's trying to defend too much or attack too much. And what I was shooting for there was I didn't want to have an overworked strap. So that one strap you see right there directly in the middle of the screen, I didn't think was enough to secure the front of that railroad tie that was sitting on that other railroad tie that's serving as dunnage there. So I did two straps there. Now, what I want to talk about here is really a couple things. I wanted to talk about, again, securing the railroad ties. Other than that, they're pretty simple. Pretty straightforward strap load. But what I wanted to shoot for here was talking about staying organized, offloading a load in an organized manner, and that's what you see here. So again, like I said in previous episodes, I don't keep my straps on the winches. I don't. I roll them up. I keep them in my side box for a couple reasons. One being that when you whoops, that was a joke. Wasn't paying attention there. Okay, so when the strap's through the middle of something like that, you really can't throw it over the top. It just doesn't work out that way. Anyway, so yeah, there's me being dumb. Anyway, so we move on. So I don't keep my straps on the winches. I keep them off the winches in the side boxes. One, because I don't feel like that they get tightened down enough. You end up wrapping that strap around itself on the winch more often than you do actually tightening that strap. And all of us have seen those guys going down the road where their straps are vibrating like that. That's illegal. That is a loose securement, is what that's called in the regs, and you can be pulled over for that. Now, I've been pulled over for a statey suspecting that I don't have my straps at the proper spacing. This stuff can happen. We don't want to be pulled over by staties, because, generally speaking, staties aren't going to just pull you over for something they see wrong on your load. They're going to see something wrong on your load. Then what they're going to do is they're going to stick that proctoscope up your hind parts and deal with you there. Yeah, here I am. I'm having to do something dangerous now. I'm up on the trailer when I don't really need to be because I did something dumb, and I tried to throw that strap over that bundle of railroad ties, which isn't working, and so I have to get up there, take it down, and pull it through like I should have in the first place. Okay, so there we go. there's my stupidity correcting my stupidity. And sometimes that's just how it goes. And so actually, okay, do something a little bit smart here. I did that, and then at least I can get the strap over there without having to drag it all over the place. All right, now we're in good shape. Now I kind of, okay, am I going to die? Am I going to die? No, I hope not. Okay, looking good. All right, we're okay. We're okay. Okay, we're back on the catwalk. We haven't tripped over the airlines or anything. Good deal. All right, we're off of there, and we're back to life. So basically, there's that. I don't keep them on the winches because of that reason. I also don't keep them on the winches because it's hard on your straps. Your straps are out in the weather enough the way it is. If you keep them on your winches all the time, especially if you own your own trailer and all you do is keep your straps on the winches, those straps are going to take a lot more weather. They're going to become a lot more brittle. They're going to wear out a lot faster than if you rolled them up and put them in your side box. And that's really what I wanted to demonstrate today. Again, I'm not sure if I've shown this aspect. Most of the time we show how we secure loads. This time we're showing how we unsecure and empty out a trailer, and then pick up our equipment, organize it for the next load. So that's what I'm doing here. As you'll see, I used a couple of portables on this because I used a cajillion straps on this. It did take a lot of straps, I will grant you. But I didn't have to worry about this load going down the road. I knew it was completely secured. It wasn't going to go anywhere. So at any rate, I'm picking up the portables and the bungees, and I'm trying to get out of the way of my unloader here. Move your behind, Garnett. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm looking at. Oh, he's going someplace else. All right, I'm okay. Trying to stay out of his way, and get done what I need to get done while they're unloading. Again, everybody knows this or should know this. This is something you should shoot for. You know, don't unsecure your load, let your equipment lie on the ground, and then sit in the truck while the guy's unloading you. You can do that if you want. I mean, if you're really tired or something, you need to take a rest. I guess you can do that. But for the most part, what you want to do, especially if these guys are, you know, they're out there, Johnny on the spot, getting me unloaded. And so I want to get my equipment picked up before they finish unloading me so I can get out of there and get on to the next load. Old boy's maybe having a little trouble with this stack. I don't know. I don't envy those. You got those guys that drive fork trucks. Yeah, never mind that. I think that's harder than driving trucks sometimes because there's just so much that can go terribly wrong and drop stuff. I've seen fork truck drivers do crazy stuff, have problems with things, and end up, you know, putting things in dangerous situations. So while the other thing you can do while you're getting unloaded is, you know, if you see a bathroom that's available, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm hitting the head. You saw me walk off the side of the screen there. Why not? You know, take the time to go. If you feel like you've got the time, take that opportunity while you're getting unloaded. Save you a little time from pulling over, as we all know. Who likes to pull over while we're driving? You know, we don't. We like to keep going. So you know, use your time wisely. This is a time management thing. So at this point, one of my priorities is to answer the call of nature. And when nature calls, you better pick up the phone, which is what I'm doing right now while my friends are unloading me. So we'll just let them do that and see how it goes from there. Okay, I'm back. That's good. I didn't take long on that one. Made it happen, got back. Gonna move the camera here for another angle on this stuff. And this is where we want to show you a couple things. We're going to show you some, you know, basically what I do with straps. Hopefully most of you guys know about this. There, you know, it's a strap winder. You buy a strap, go to a truck shop, buy a strap winder. That's a side winder. I like the side winder better than the front winder. There's a couple different versions of them, but they fit right on your rub rail. This one is a side winder. You put it on there, you just hammer it down, and you're good to go. And start winding up straps. These side winders took me a little bit of getting used to, but as you see, once you get used to it, what I do is I get all those straps over to one side of the truck, and then put the non-hook end, obviously, that's going to go in there. Put those up there near my drive tires, and then wind them up. Now, this can get a little bit ridiculous, especially if you have a ton of straps that you're working with. So you can't see it so much there. You're getting a great shot of my butt there, by the way. I'm so glad I put the camera right there so you could see me bend over. Anyway, but here's what I'm talking about. That's the pain in the butt about this. So what I try to do is find the strap that's on top. Don't always succeed, but that's what I try to do. Find the strap that's most on the top. That way you're not dragging those 100 straps over there. I do them in stacks of 3s because I've just found that if I do them in 4s or 5s, it just gets, I just start fumbling straps everywhere. Okay, here's a little better angle on what I'm doing. See, I'm trying to grab the top strap, get it in that sidewinder, wind it up, and just make stuff easier. I'm kind of watching out for my guys unloading, because if he makes a mistake, that's one thing. I mean, you guys probably all know this, but if you're a new guy, just be careful about this. When you're working and you're putting your equipment away while you're being unloaded, you want to be very careful about what your unloader's doing, because if he makes a mistake and he pushes a bundle of those railroad ties over on my head, that's going to be bad. That's going to be a bad day, bad day. And we don't really want a bad day today. We just want to get out of here, get our equipment put up and safely stored without having a bad day. But I've seen it happen. I've had guys push crane mats off the side of my trailer that if I would have been in the way of those, would have killed you. Those railroad ties weigh 300 pounds a piece, and a bundle of them, that they're just going to kill you. That's all there is to it. If he screws up, and again, I wouldn't blame him. Stuff happens. The onus is on you as a driver to stay out of the way of your loader or unloader. It's not their responsibility to have to worry about what you're doing while they're trying to do the difficult job of unloading you. So be courteous to your unloaders, and stay out of their way. That's really what's going on there. Okay, so you see, I'm pretty adept at using that sidewinder. Works pretty well, especially when I find the strap that's on top. Gets wound up pretty quick. And honestly, I mean, again, just like we talked about when we talked about securing shingles, that sort of thing might take more time than if you had your straps on the winches. But it really, at the end of the day, it really doesn't take that much more time. And if you get good at it, you can get it. You can be faster than some of these guys. I've seen that wrap up their straps on the winches. And then plus that, the other benefits of having the straps wound up securely in your side box, so they're not exposed to the weather. Then on top of that, you're not fighting them to try to get them tight. While they're wrapping around the winch, you just don't have to deal with all that. It's just a much better way of taking care of your straps. So that's one thing I want to show you this week. Some storage tips. As you're going to see, I'm going to show you how I store my straps. You saw that I picked up those portables, and I'll show you exactly what I do with those portables. I use them for a little bit of a unique purpose. Then I'm also going to show you a trick to store your tarps and your V-boards. Okay, so I got here again. I'm being courteous to the unloader, getting out of his way, making sure he knows, hey, I'm standing here. You don't have to worry about dropping railroad ties on my head today. And I'm just standing over there while he takes care of business. As soon as he's done doing what he has to do, I'll go back to winding up the straps. All right, so we're pretty close here, and I mean, as you can see from the timer on the video, this is none of this is taking that long. It's all gets done in pretty short order. It's just a matter of getting yourself into a routine, is what I found. And again, like I say, I don't want to act like an expert on all this. I can't even put the camera in the right place so I don't show my butt all the time. So some of you guys out there have been driving longer, have some more expertise, have some better ways of doing this sort of thing. By all means, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it, and if there's a better way to do this sort of thing, or a better rationale than I've kind of given for why I'm doing things the way I do it. So anyway, we'll pick up these last few straps, and we'll be done with that. It's a really beautiful area of Kentucky. Southeast Kentucky is just gorgeous. Although it as you guys know, if you've been down there, you're driven around southeastern Kentucky. It's a pain in the butt to get around down there. You see those roads behind me, how narrow and thin they are. They're terrible. They're not terrible. The roads aren't terrible. It's just that they're thin and curvy. They're old trails, is what they are. And so you've got to navigate those, getting in and out of there. But otherwise, that part of the country is just gorgeous, just very, very beautiful part of the country to go down into. And so I'm kind of taking in the scenery a little bit while I work here. Yeah, Garnett, get the, yeah. Get what you need to do. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not the only one out there that feels like an idiot half the time, but that's kind of how it goes, I think. Sometimes there's a lot to remember. It is, to give myself a break. Just right there, you see something I do, if those straps kind of get off kilter, they're not exactly wound properly, I just stick them on the trailer there and whack on them a little bit just to get them a little more flat. It's like reeling in a fish. Yep, same thing, just whack those down and get them flat, because when I show you how I put these in my side box, you want them all to fit. That's the thing. The side box takes them almost perfectly. I got this Freightliner Cascadia, and there you see, right there, they fit in there perfectly. You see my portables are acting as kind of a rack to hold those in, and they fit in there perfectly. They stay together, so when I'm ready to do the next load, just grab. Now, here's another little trick I wanted to show you, as far as securing, as far as storing these are my 6-foot drop tarps. And for some reason, I can't remember, this is a while back, but for some reason I had them on the deck of my truck with my big 8-foot drop tarps. And so I took these because I was getting ready to do something. I think I was getting ready to drop this trailer at a preload site where they were going to need those big lumber tarps, those 8-foot drop tarps. And I was going to need to get my smaller tarps, someplace else. And so usually that's where they go. Now, here's the trick to this. Here's what I finally figured out, because I hated trying to put those tarps up in that upper rack, because I'm no spring chicken anymore, and to lift those up there, it takes some effort. So what I do is, you see, I cock my jackknife my truck and trailer so that I can get the deck of the truck closer to that rack, and I'm able to pick up those tarps very easily, throw them on the top of that rack, and then take my V-boards and put them right over the top of the tarps, take a cut 4-inch strap, wrap it around the top rack there, and then crank it down. It works beautifully. I was really happy when I discovered that, because if you can't use that space to store tarps and you use it to store something else, there's just not a lot that can go up there that makes your storage as efficient as having those tarps up there. It's just nice. And then plus that, you get those big V-boards out of the way, etc. I just got done dropping off shingles, and it was a perfect chance to get those V-boards put away, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the couple things I wanted to show you this week. Talk about securing those railroad ties, and just putting a couple extra straps on there just to make sure those lower bundles aren't going to kick. Some storage tips with straps, being courteous to your riggers, and then some storage storage tricks for your tarps and your V-boards. All right, there is the hack of the week for this week. Let's move on to the Matthew Garnett School of Truck Driving and Philosophy. Here we go.
And the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Like I told my last wife, I says, honey, I never drive faster than I can see. Besides that, it's all in the reflexes. listen to the old Pork Chop Express and take his advice on a dark and stormy night, all right? When some wild-eyed, 8-foot-tall maniac grabs your neck, taps the back of your favorite head up against a barroom wall, and he looks you crooked in the eye, and he asks you if you've paid your dues, well, you just stare that big sucker right back in the eye, and you remember what old Jack Burton always says at a time like that. Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir, the check is in the mail. I'm not saying that I've been everywhere and I've done everything, but I do know it's a pretty amazing planet we live on here. The man would have to be some kind of fool to think we're all alone in this universe.
One of the things you asked me earlier about my message, one of the most important ones for me was this. There was no religion in science fiction. The characters God couldn't be a character. But I realized there is no such thing as a human being without a religion. I've learned this with many atheists over the years. I've learned it. I learned it at Notre Dame with good Catholic grad students along with me who nevertheless didn't act as if their religion mattered. But I found that if you keep questioning things and start casting doubt on things that they did not believe could be doubted, you find people's religion because they get angry. You find the thing that they believe that they don't realize might not be believed by other people, by intelligent people. And so everybody.
So no, that's absolutely right. When you hit on somebody's button, their soft spot in their worldview and their belief structure, and you start to point out inconsistencies, and they start to get angry, warning. There's a belief system, there's a worldview at work there. And what I think Card might be missing here in a sense is that, does everybody have a religion? Does everybody have a God? Yes, I think that's correct. Is it in normal discourse the best way to phrase that? No, I would say everybody has a worldview. Everybody has an ism, right? So this is the way. So I get to teach the teenagers at my church sometimes, and so when I talk to them about isms, and the way I put that is, an ism is something you think is going to save you, rescue you, make your life, what it was supposed to be. So feminism, for instance, transgenderism, whatever ism you want to put a capitalism, can be taken to that extreme as well. It's some worldview, some ideology, and in some instances it bridges these gaps into the religious, where we think that this thing is going to save us. Atheism, right? So Card is right, and when you start to point that out, I mean, when you say to an atheist, yeah, sorry, you have a religion as well. You make leaps of faith. You have certain things that you have faith in. You believe in X, Y, and Z. You believe in evolution, right? That's kind of the lingo that gets placed there. And so and it's interesting. Again, my atheist friends, when I point out to them that they have a belief system just like I do, they get angry. They get angry about that. Oh, I don't have a belief system. Everything that I believe, sometimes I'll put that in scare quotes, everything that I believe is based on empirical fact. No, it's not. That's not true. And I can easily demonstrate that because, I just get them in the is-ought debate. Just because you can show something empirically, show that it is, that doesn't tell you anything about what we ought to do about it. Science has conclusively proven that life begins at conception. That is a human life. As soon as the sperm meet the egg, science says that's human life. Doesn't tell us what we ought to do about it, does it? So we've come to different conclusions about that scientific fact. See? So, but that leap from is to ought. So somebody who believes that, well, okay, so it's a human life, but X, Y, and Z argument, so therefore we ought to have abortion. That's a leap of faith. You on what basis are they making that argument? And when you point these things out, they get angry. And I think that's a good point that Card is making here.
Kind of thing that they believe that they don't realize might not be believed by other people, by intelligent people. And so everybody has religion. Everybody has the beliefs that they don't realize they believe because that's just how things are, they think. And as soon as you question those things, there's a little panic, a little sense of assault on their basic core nature. So once I understood that everybody has a religion, I decided, why don't I have my characters openly have religions? They don't have to be mine. In fact, they usually aren't. And even when they are, it's not necessarily the version of my religion that I believe in. If I were Jewish and I were, let's say, conservative, and I made somebody Hasidic or I made somebody Reform, then it wouldn't necessarily be following my belief set, yet I would know something about the culture, at least what it is that I do that makes them both yell at me.
Right, so Orson Scott Card is a science fiction writer. He wrote Ender's Game. I'm not into fiction at all. I just found this interview fascinating, and Shapiro has some really fascinating guests on this podcast, the Sunday Special, which is why we're featuring it here. Again, that's what I think would be great for the debate, is if we could just get it out in the open, that we all have a worldview, we all have a faith system at the end of the day, because we have to make some sort of logical step again from that is to ought relationship. And so why not display it? And that's what he's talking about, displaying it openly, displaying it with intelligence. Even in something as mundane as I would say, mundane as fiction writing. Why not just admit it? Yes, you've got your worldview, I've got mine. I've got my religion, you've got yours, whether I'm an atheist or a Catholic or a Lutheran, as I happen to be. And so we have these things we come at the world with. And so let's debate that openly and say, yes, we all have a belief system, but what worldview, what ism makes the most coherent sense? That's one reason why I'm a Lutheran, among other things, just to put it in purely human, earthly, rational terms. I was an evangelical Christian, as some of you guys who know me from my In Layman's Terms podcast know. And then I dropped religion altogether. And for about 10 years, that's what I did. I, just left the faith altogether. And then I was brought back into it via the Lutheran faith. And so Lutheranism is my ism. And so let's just be open about our isms. That would be a nice place to start, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think we could reach some level of understanding. I think that's what Card is getting at here.
If you're going to create a character who has an existing religion, you have a responsibility to make it plausible. So in Speaker for the Dead, I made it a Catholic-centered colony, Brazilian, but in Brazil you find that only a certain, not tiny, but minority of the population is believing, practicing Catholic. A lot of people who are nominally Catholic are following, I can never remember the name right. Macumba is what comes to mind, but it's one where African gods have been assigned the names of saints, and it's essentially the African religion in disguise as Catholicism. The priests are aware of it. There's nothing they can do about it, so they just let those people come and take communion with the strict Catholics. But Brazil, while it takes pride in being the world's largest Catholic country, is not all that Catholic, except that this colony was founded with the idea of Catholicism at its core. If you come to this colony to live, you care about Catholicism. You're a believer and a practicer. So I had to know enough about Catholicism to not make idiotic mistakes. Now, fortunately, in America, we have two generic religions. If you need a hierarchical religion, you use Catholic. If you need a congregational religion, you use generic Protestant, but really Baptist. And that is what works. So you can have stories where somebody's a minister. As soon as they say minister, not Catholic. Have a story where somebody's a priest. As soon as the robes are on or whatever, then, you got Catholic. Every now and then, with the bishop's wife, you have the Anglican idea. And so, it varies. But those religions are available, and we all have some experience of them by watching movies. Jewish, not so much. I would feel a great deal of trepidation making a character of mine Jewish, especially Orthodox, because I've known enough Orthodox Jews to know how rigorous the demands are, what has to be kept in your head all the time. And I do that as a Mormon. I know all of our rules by heart. I don't even have to think about them anymore. But whenever I watch somebody's fictional treatment of Mormonism, no one ever gets it right. No one even comes close. A very famous rock musician whose work I enjoy wrote a novel that had Mormons in it, and he wanted me to read it to maybe get a quote for the cover. And I started reading it, and within the first 2 chapters, I thought, none of this could possibly happen. This is not the way Mormonism ever, ever, ever works. And so my best response was just silence, because he couldn't revise the novel yet. It was too late. But getting somebody else's religion wrong is a terrible faux pas. But showing characters who have a religion that they take seriously is, I think, a really good and useful thing. To a degree, and Tyler has tried to do that, Saint Maybe and other books have people who are believers in a religion. The trouble is, when she wants us to take a religion seriously, she makes it more of mere Christianity than of any particular denomination. And that's fine. I mean, that's C.S. Lewis's influence too. But it also strips the religion of its demands. The religions that are prospering right now in America are the high demand religions. Orthodox Jews are not shrinking. Reform is. The mainline Christian churches, Lutheranism, Presbyterianism, they are, losing members, shedding members. But the high demand Protestant religions, the ones that actually expect you to live by rules, those are growing.
Okay, so I want to get to this this high demand religions aspect, because I actually agree with that. But let me just comment on what Card is talking about here, about getting people's religions right and how difficult that is, because so Card is a Mormon, and there are many versions of Mormonism even within the United States. I mean, that very young, what I would call a cult, might have some discussion with Card on that, has blossomed into a number of sects where you've got probably guys like Card, Mitt Romney, these types that are more mainstream, and then you've got Mormons who still hold to the notion that polygamy is the way to go. You've got those extremes, and you see these communities of Mormons who have tried to hold to the old ways and these sorts of things. So it is very difficult to get somebody's religion right, namely because the piece of the religion you might be talking about may not be their particular brand of that religion. This is one reason why I would brand myself as a confessional Lutheran, because it's very easy to define me. If you want to know about what a Lutheran Christian believes, I can hand you one book and say, here it is, the Book of Concord. This is what Lutherans believe. And you read that, get an understanding of it. This is what confessional Lutherans believe. Now, if you're going to portray Lutheranism as something other than that, as something that is more of your Nadia Bolz-Weber, if you're not familiar with her, I'd suggest you check Nadia Bolz-Weber out. And I've done some podcasts on her in layman's terms. You should definitely check those out. But they are not confessional Lutherans. So, if you're writing something or you're trying to portray somebody's religion, one thing that's very, very easy to pin down, which I like as a Lutheran, is confessional Lutheranism. It's very simple to do. You read this one book. It's called the Book of Concord, with an understanding of Holy Scripture behind it. Yes, of course. But you can pin us down very, very easily. Mormonism, Baptists, mere Christianity, all those other categories are really slippery when it comes to pinning them down because they don't have any confessional documents. And that's what's difficult about those. Even within, I've got great friends, best friends, lifelong friends who are Baptist type evangelicals, who even within their own sphere, within, maybe their 4 or 5 friends are going to define, what they believe in 4 or 5 different ways. That's not the case with Lutherans. Do we have our internal squabbles about what the Book of Concord might mean? Yeah, definitely we do. You guys saw, if you watched a couple of episodes ago, I talked about, an essay from a book called The Necessary Distinction. That's a big dispute going on in confessional Lutheranism right now. So even there, it's difficult when you have a book. And that all, the nice thing about having the confessions and saying, okay, we affirm the confessions. All right, at least we've got a starting point. At least we can argue about, well, do the confessions say this or do they say that? And then we can that's when it gets interesting, because then we get into this whole idea of, well, what does this mean? Or what do they mean when they said this? This isn't clearly defined. So then you get this kind of whole postmodern milieu coming in, and it's great. And I think these things should be debated. And what I think Card is missing in this point is the reason it's hard to pin down religious positions is because they vary so widely. And this has been the case since time immemorial. This was true of the Jews. If you ask Ben Shapiro, if he's honest, he'll tell you that the Jews, even before the time of Christ, were not a monolith. And you can just read the Bible about how, from the get-go, there were always these theological debates. And I think that's what's important. And I think what Card misses here is that, oh, well, this person portrayed Mormonism in this way, and that's not anything about what Mormonism is about. Oh, really? Okay, well, this is this person's perception of Mormonism. And perhaps there might be some Mormons out there that might agree with this person's perception of Mormonism. Maybe he did his homework. And you should, we should look at that. These are good things to talk about, discuss, and not stay silent on. Again, I'm with Shapiro in this sense. This is why I like Shapiro, because he likes discussion. He likes debate. Let's lay this stuff out on the table. Let's be honest about it. Let's bring it from our isms, our worldviews, our religions, and admit so much. And let's talk about what makes the most rational sense given the circumstances. And so yeah, we want to bring those differences out. We want to talk about them. We want to discuss them. We don't want to let them lie and be silent on them. So whenever you can discuss things, that's always a plus.
So, it's just one of those things that when you belong to a religious culture that expects you to behave in certain ways in order to be a full-fledged member, it changes your life. It focuses your life. And so, I've toyed with using Mormonism, but then I know no matter what I do, it's going to make Mormons mad. And I need to be able to go home from time to time and visit family. So it's just easier for me to use other people's religion. The one time I did use my own religion was the novel Lost, well, two times, the novel Lost Boys and a story collection called Folk at the Fringe. And in both of those, there are Mormons who just hate them. Who's going to write about a Mormon? Why couldn't he write about a good one? And I'm going, wow, all the things you hate are stuff that I actually did. So it's me you hate.
Okay, so see, right there. See, Card just did what he accused that one author of doing, mischaracterizing Mormonism. He said Lutheranism is shrinking. No, it's not. It's not. We're not growing at any rapid rate, but we're not shrinking. But the brand of Lutheranism that is not shrinking is the high demand branch of the Lutheran faith. It's not the love fest free for all brand of Lutheranism that somebody like Nadia Bolz-Weber puts forth. See, he doesn't know about my brand of Lutheranism, and again, it'd be really easy for him to know about that. And it's interesting that he's quick to critique someone who mischaracterizes his brand of Mormonism, but he doesn't know my brand of Lutheranism. He doesn't know my mom and dad's brand of Presbyterianism, which is conservative and high demand. Okay? Now, that's not to say, for all of my Lutheran friends out there, that's not to say, confessional Lutheranism is high demand in the sense that we've got to do something to save ourselves. Right now, we have the doctrine of justification, and I don't want to chase that rabbit trail right now. But what I'm talking about is that the way our confessions speak is that we are to, since we have been saved by such a grace, we are to love God and love our neighbor with all of our might, all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's the idea. And because we don't have to worry anymore about whether or not we're going to be able to impress God enough to inherit eternal life and to be adopted into his family, that Christ has taken on that burden on the cross in his birth, life, death, resurrection, and ascension into heaven. We don't have to worry about that piece of it anymore. Then we can put all of our time and energy into those who are around us. We can put all of our time and energy into loving our Heavenly Father through our piety. That's what Holy Scripture talks about, right? So in that sense, it is high demand. It asks something of us that we are more than capable of giving and should strive for, and these sorts of things. So again, the point being, interesting that Card lumps Lutheranism and Presbyterianism and all the Reformed into these low demand religions. I'm not sure what he means by that, but what I suspect, and this may be a little cynical, but what I suspect is that you have to, in Mormonism, you have to behave a certain way in order to achieve the next level of, and I'm not an expert on Mormonism by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to save yourself. In the Mormon faith, you have to abide by a certain set of principles. It wasn't Christ's death on the cross that saves you. It is actually your behavior that saves you, and that's where we're going to depart. And that's where he may take Orthodox Judaism and Mormonism and say, oh, these are the high demand. So if that's the high demand he's talking about, where you have to save yourself, where Christ is no longer the Savior, that's a major problem. And that's where Mormonism, and I would dare say Judaism, is dangerous. That it demands that you save yourself. That on that day, you will be judged by God based on what you based on yourself, wholly on yourself, and nothing to do with the person and work of Christ on the cross. And that's not good. Hopefully that's not where he's going, but I've talked to enough Mormons. I'm not an expert on Mormonism, but I've talked to enough Mormons to know that's probably where he's going, to say that the high demand is that you've got to earn heaven for yourself. And here's why I don't like that in particular. Now, Shapiro and Card have been talking extensively about politics and the state of affairs in our world. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in this world when it comes to politics, culture, you name it, is that we've got all these isms where we're trying to save ourselves, where we're trying to bring about the utopia. And if we're not trying to bring about the utopia, we're trying to make things better, trying to improve things and make things better in this life. And that's all well and good, but to what end? So, I mean, it seems like both the utopian idea and the make things better idea are both on the same trajectories. To save ourselves, that we can bring about heaven on earth. I mean, Michael Shermer, the skeptic atheist, wrote a book called Heavens on Earth, and how we humans really are going to be the ones to create some sort of heaven. It's not going to last forever. Of course, we're going to die, but we can strive toward that sort of thing. And that's where I think the mistake is. And that's where I think the value in Christ's free, gracious sacrifice, and again, in his incarnation, his death, his resurrection, and ascension, just unburden us from that time and again failed effort to reach some sort of utopia on our own. God's going to bring about the utopia. Okay? Stop trying to bring about the utopia and just be a good husband. Just be a good father, a good worker. Okay? That's where it starts. We've got all these people wanting to do these world-changing, life-changing things where we need to change all this up. I mean, especially in this time. I've got protesters throwing eggs at my car going down the street, thinking that they're going to somehow, by what they're doing, bring about a better world and lead us to the promised land of this utopia, of this egalitarian utopia. It's not. They are burdening themselves with stuff that is never going to come to fruition. It never has, never will. And it seems like the more effort that's put into bringing about the utopia, the more horror that happens. See? So if Card's talking about, a higher demand religion where we're the ones that are going to bring about the better world, we're the ones that are going to bring about utopia, sorry, he's on the same trajectory as our postmodern neo-Marxist friends across the aisle who think they can bring about the utopia by defunding the police and totally pulling out the roots and branches of Western civilization and thinking that's gonna do it. And instead of realizing this is in God's hands, that the person and work of Christ has accomplished this, and He will bring it to fruition. Okay, so there again, just reiterating the point. Even, even he has difficulty writing about his own religion. Which, yeah, that's true. And getting it perfectly right. Yeah, and I'm not a fiction writer, but at the same time, it is good to talk about people's worldviews, about their faith systems, and just to say, this is my faith system. This is where my leaps of faith are. This is where I just I can't connect the dots logically for you. Again. And this is where it gets, this gets my atheist friends angry. For me, when I'm challenged with that, I'm just like, yeah, I can't make that logical leap for you. I cannot rationally piece that together. but when they are challenged with it, they get angry. So I think that's important. Whatever your ism might be, whether it's Lutheranism or feminism or atheism, that you admit where your faith commitments are. And I think that's really what this fiction author is pointing out. He's talking about using religion in the context of fiction writing, but he's also making some really profound points about where we all should just have some humility and admit it. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you for listening to Trucker Hacks. Check us out on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Also check us out on laymanstermsradio.org, and we'll see you next week for another hack.